Dear students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor P. Bhaskar Reddy, Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture and Archaeology, Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati, the Principal Investigator of the course Indian Culture and Course Coordinator for the paper Outlines of Indian History. This is the first chapter in this paper. As an introductory chapter, you are going to learn about Indian history, its significance, periodization and unity in diversity. Before starting off any country's history, it is necessary to understand its beginning, its course and several historical facets of that history. In this module, you are going to learn about the Indian history, its beginning as an introduction, the significance of the history, its periodization, importance of the ancient Indian history, unity and diversity, and how the Indian history is considered as a greatest history of the world. With these objectives, let us start the Indian history and its beginning. India is the name given to the vast peninsula which the continent of Asia throws out to the south of the magnificent mountain ranges that stretch in a sword-like curve across the southern border of Tibet. This vast expanse of territory, which deserves the name of a subcontinent, has the shape of a quadrilateral. Ancients referred it as being constituted with a fourfold conformation. On its south, west and east is the greatest ocean. The Himavat range stretches along its north like the string of a bow. The Indian Empire, as it existed before independence, extended beyond these natural boundaries at several points of history and included not only Baluchistan beyond Kittar range, but also some smaller areas lay scattered in the Bay of Bengal. It was known as Bharatavarsha in history. The name India was applied to the country by the Greeks, and medieval writers called it as Hindustan. Geographically, India is divided into four distinct regions: hill country of the north, great northern plain, the Deccan plateau of south central India, the long and narrow maritime plains containing the rich ports. Have a look at the physical location of India and its surroundings, which it gives an idea about the geographical location of the Indian subcontinent. The ancient Indian literature, we have references to a fivefold division of India. The course of Indian history is in large measures determined by its geography. Geographically, India is situated in between Arabia Sea in the west, Indian Ocean in the south, Bay of Bengal in the east, Himalayan mountains in the north, Pakistan and Afghanistan on northwest. With these geographical boundaries, India has its own history from the origin of man. India has rich, glorious and long cherished history. Historically and archaeologically, India is one of the richest subcontinents in the world. The historiography of India reveals many significant changes over time. The past before writing, known as prehistory, and the history of non-literated people who did not leave behind written sources are also extremely important and have to be recovered. This land was important not only in the prehistoric period but also in the subsequent history, even up to the British rule and present day. The Indian history begins with very remote period. The discovery of stone tools from several prehistoric sites in the river valleys and rock shelters enable us to say that all these parts of India were inhabited by primitive man. There are regional variations owing to ecological, geographic and climatic conditions. The Harappan culture was noticed in several sites in northern India and parts of Gujarat, indicates that this culture is limited to the above regions, while the Chalcolithic cultures were in coexistence in the Deccan and central India. Have a look at the early man and the cultures of the Indus Valley civilization. With this introduction, let us understand the significance of the history. History is a record of achievements of man. History was pivotal since there was always a curiosity in compare the past with the present. History relating to society, economy, culture and religion was explored and interconnections between them attracted interest. Historical research continued to require technical expertise in the handling of a range of source materials from artifacts to texts. But history proper deals only with facts or known from records of some kind or other. As G.R. Elton, the historian, says regarding the significance of history, history treats fundamentally of the transformation of things, people, institutions, ideas and so on from one state to another, and the event is its concern as well as its instrument. Thus, the study of history is a search for the truth, and different cultures are valuable repositories of different facets of truth, seeing and appreciating which will enable us to understand the way we were, what we are today, and where we must go tomorrow. Thus, the study of history is important in understanding the evolution of man and his technology. So, with this brief introduction about the Indian history, its geography and significance, let us try to understand the Indian history and its periodization. You know that Indian history is a vast history and it is not possible to study the entire history as single unit. Hence, the historian often classify of the past by dividing into different periods. For a long time, the historians divided the Indian history into Hindu, that is ancient history, Muslim, that is medieval history, and the British, that is known as modern history. Later, the periodization of Indian history has been divided as prehistory and proto-history, extending from earliest time to 6th century Christian era, early history, that is the period from 6th to 13th century Christian era, medieval history starts from 13th to 18th centuries, and modern history from 18th century to present. The ancient history of the human past can be divided into prehistory and proto-history, where written records are available from particular period onwards. However, defining periods in history is important, but it is equally important to determine the cause of change, a question sometimes referred to as that of the transition from one period to other. The nature of transition is therefore becomes a significant aspect of periodization. The distinction between the periods is determined the characteristics of polity, economy, technology, society, and religion. With these few remarks on the periodization, let us know about the importance of the ancient Indian history. The study of ancient Indian history is important for several reasons, because the people developed the earliest cultures in our country. It tells us how, when, and where. It indicates how they started agriculture, which made life secure and settled. It shows how the ancient Indians discovered and utilized natural resources, and they created the means for their livelihood. We come to know they took farming, spinning, weaving, metalworking, and so on. It also tells how they cleared forests, found villages, cities, and finally large kingdoms. It is a fact that the languages we use have roots in ancient times and have developed through the ages. Thus, the study of ancient Indian history is important to understand what we have and what we are in the present day. Comparison of the past to the future, it helps about how we acquired the knowledge, what are the traditions of the ancient Indian people, and it helps for shaping the better future. So far, we discussed about the Indian history, its beginning, significance, periodization in history, and also the importance of ancient Indian history. History is a continuous one, which it continues with several changes. Another important thing is India is a vast one, comprising various cultures, traditions, habits, customs in all walks of life. Thus, Indian history presents unity in diversity in all aspects. Let us know about the unity in diversity in Indian history. The ancient Indian history is interesting because India proved to be a crucible of ethnic groups like pre-Aryans, Indo-Aryans, Greeks, Scythians, Huns, and Turks. Each ethnic group contributed its mite for the evolution of Indian culture. All these people mixed so inextricably with one another that at present none of them can be clearly identified in their original form. Indian history has exhibited unity in diversity in spite of the existence of different races, communities, tribes, food habits, dress, caste, languages, religious faiths, customs and traditions. These people live side by side harmoniously and respecting the sentiments and the religious beliefs of other communities. Since ancient times, India has been the land of several religions. Ancient India witnessed the birth of Hinduism, Jainism, and Buddhism. But all these cultures and religions intermingled, acted and reacted upon one another. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis, and different tribal people are living peacefully for several centuries in the subcontinent. Our country shows a deep underlying unity in spite of great diversity in all these matters. Besides religious harmony, The ancient Indians strove for unity and they looked upon this vast subcontinent as one land. The name Bharatavarsha or the land of Bharata was given to the whole country after the name of an ancient tribe called the Bharatas. Our ancient poets, philosophers and writers viewed the country as an integral unit. They spoke of the land stretching from the Himalayas to the sea as proper domain of single universal monarch. This kind of political unity was attained at least twice during Maurya and Gupta periods. In spite of lack of political unity, political formations all over the country assumed more or less the same shape in entire Indian subcontinent. The idea that India constituted one single geographical unit persisted in the minds of conquerors and cultural leaders since its beginning. The unity of India was also recognized by the foreign invaders who invaded since the beginning of Christian era. They first came into contact with the people living on the Sindhu or the Indus and named the country after this river as Indus. The word Hind is derived from the Sanskrit term Sindhu, and in course of time the country came to be known as India, which is very close to the Greek word. In Indian history, we find continuous efforts made through the ages for the linguistic and cultural unity of the country. In the 3rd century BCE, Prakrit served as a lingua franca of the entire country. The great Mauryan emperor Ashoka issued his inscriptions all over the country in that language. Later, Sanskrit occupied similar place in the courts of Indian subcontinent as an official language. Besides Prakrit and Sanskrit, Brahmi script was prevalent in all over the country, where Ashoka engraved his inscriptions in that script. The languages which was practiced in ancient period was the source for the development of several languages of the present day spoken by different people. Besides that, in India, we are practicing several scripts. It is known that all the scripts were derived from the script Brahmi, which was used by Ashoka in his inscriptions. Another notable fact is that the ancient epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, were studied with the same zeal and devotion throughout the country. Indian history deserves our attention because of a peculiar type of social system developed in this country, the Varna system, which have its roots from the Vedic times. It continued even up to the present day. Although the Indian values and ideas were expressed in different forms, the substance remained the same throughout the country. The most important feature of the Indian climate is the monsoon, which varies from region to region. The temperature of the North India varies from other parts of India. It has been often said that the scale of natural phenomena in India and her total dependence on the monsoon have developed to form the character of our people. However, the underlying unity in the integrity and the plural character of Indian society remain the real strength for the development of our country. With this discussion, it is clear that India's enduring inheritance of climate, land and people, the basis on which her high civilization has been built and which will remain more or less unchanging to condition the lives of her people in all their terms. Hence, India has emerged a multi-religious and multicultural society. The magnitude of the population of India is quite in keeping with the immensity of its geographical dimensions. The unity was undoubtedly nurtured in the 19th century by a uniform system of administration and the spread of education on modern lines. The study of India's past assumes special significance in the context of the problems we face in the modern times. The success of the ancients in surmounting the difficulties presented by nature and human factors can build our hope and confidence in future. We have many survivals of ancient, medieval and later times persisting in the present. The old norms, values, social customs and ritual practices are so deeply ingrained in the minds of the people that they cannot easily get rid of them. With this discussion, you might have understood the Indian history, its beginning, the geographical location of Indian subcontinent, significance of the study of Indian history, periodization, importance of the ancient Indian history, the continuation of Indian culture with changes from ancient to modern period, and how the Indian history presents unity in diversity in all its aspects. For further better understanding, you go through the e-text, self-assessment and further sources. Thank you.